Hello, today I will be showing off my new paints. They are the Schmincke Artist Gouache. I will give a synopsis of my thoughts at the end, and let's just get started with some swatching. Here we have lemon yellow, which does not want to focus apparently. Indian yellow, my favorite yellow to mix with. And of course, raw sienna, can't go without that. Here we've got cadmium red light, very nice red color, not my favorite, but a very good mixing color. Oh, purple magenta, yeah, I fucking hate purple, but I need it for the mixing. Helio green yellowish. I don't hate green as much as I hate magenta, but green still pretty sucks. Oh, there we have it, Prussian blue. That is one of my favorite colors. It is an absolutely beautiful blue. And here we've got ultramarine light. Also a big fan of ultramarine. It's also an incredibly versatile color. And last but not least, ivory black. Aha, it would focus. I'm impressed. Okay, I'm going to be transparent and say this watching section is kind of useless because I forgot to film all of it, but it is very interesting to say the least. And oh, there we've got my Moomin mug. I actually got that one for Christmas because I always ask for Moomin mugs for Christmas. I collect them. It is a bit sad that I had to ruin it for the video, or just painting in general, because I just moved and I did not bring any, I literally didn't bring anything else to eat or drink from. And apparently I prioritized painting with it, which I agree entirely on that prioritization. One thing I would recommend for people who paint with gouache or watercolor is don't do what I'm doing here, where I am only using 1 cup of water to hold the water. You should use at least 2 so that you have 1 for cleaning your brush and 1 for mixing with clean water. Because the colors do get quite muddy with the water being a muddy color over time. So I highly recommend that. Like I said, I just literally did not have anything else. And there's the magenta again, god damn. You know, I told one of the art school teachers that I hated purple and magenta, and she called me prejudiced because of it. When I mentioned it, she was like, oh yeah, we all have our prejudices. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not prejudiced against magenta. I didn't prejudge. I am very well aware of how magenta works, how it looks, and I still judge it. I judge it poorly, and I feel like that is 100% warranted. But I will say this, what I noticed while working with the colors while I was swatching, I swatched over the markings I had made on the paper, and They did seem rather transparent, which did worry me in the beginning, but they also went on really smoothly. And why are you smoking, dude? You're supposed to be filming. Can you... Oh, thank you. Start sketching, yeah. Oh yeah, and I did realize that the sketch was completely invisible because of the sun, and also because I chose this darker background as an underpainting. And now I'm going in and adding some, just some color to the area that I want to work with, just to get like a base of something that will shine through in the end. And now I start blocking out the darkest spots. I prefer to work this way because I feel like that gives me much better control of what I am doing, and I can sort of map out the shape in my head. A lot of people talk about the ugly stage of painting, which is very, very true. If you work this way, where you map out the darkest areas and then going with the lighter areas, you sort of have that contrast that you tend to lose when you've covered the entire page with the first layer of paint. It really helps me. Of course, everyone works differently and finds their way around these issues. And, you know, a lot of people, when I talk about doing art, they ask me, oh, can you teach me how to paint? Can you teach me how to draw? But the thing is, I can't teach you, or anyone for that matter, how to paint or draw. The thing you need to learn when it comes to art is so complex and so personal that no one can teach you that. But what I can do is hopefully inspire people and give some advice, say, hey, this works really well for you, maybe try that. You know, a lot of my friends at art school have done that with me, like, when I've had issues, I've asked, oh, I just don't know how to solve this problem in my brain. Like, how do I get through this? And they're like, well, I can't show you how to do it, but I can show you a different way of thinking about your process. And that's very valuable. And at this point, some of you may have noticed that I am in fact painting a brain. Might not be the most common thing to paint, but I really like the dark themes, and I'm quite inspired by organs and meat, and to me, there's something almost sexual about organs and meat and blood and these things, because it's so representative of to devour something. And, you know, a lot of art is inspired by sex, and everyone has like a different understanding of how it relates to art. Like Salvador Dali, to him, lobsters were hot as shit, apparently. And I'm not saying organs are hot as shit, it's more of a abstract comparison, if you will. Because a lot of my art is inspired by things of predation and BDSM. And sometimes it's about, you know, darker things like death and things that we don't normally touch upon. I had an exhibition a little while ago, and I heavily focused on substance abuse and consumption and being consumed. And yeah, I'm just not a very big fan of these very cute, very beautiful works of art. I really like things that are rather disgusting, cause they make me feel something, alright? Like, to me that's very important. And right here, as you can tell, I attempted glazing, and glazing with gouache is very difficult. I think in theory it's possible. I have not mastered it, that's for sure. So I had to just like go over it, let it sit. It probably wasn't dry enough as well. So now I'm going in with some blue to cover it up. That's another thing about my art. I use a lot of very exaggerated colors. Like within a brain, for an example, all of these colors exist in the brain. I have just taken them and made them more extreme. I very rarely go for realism. I am actually practicing trying to learn realism this semester. I have made progress, but I am very far away from mastering it in painting. I can do a pencil sketch that's rather realistic, but painting, that's a whole other beast. However, I mentioned earlier that I thought that the paints might be a bit transparent, and that worried me. However, I did not have any issue with that in this painting whatsoever, and the other paintings I've made. They weren't transparent in a way where I couldn't work with them. I have had cheap gouache before that was so transparent they're impossible to use as gouache, and really bad as watercolor too, because they get so chalky. Gouache has that tendency, especially cheap gouache. But you know, I don't know what I expected, because it is Schmincke. Schmincke is always at the top of the line when it comes to art supplies. I really trust Schmincke as a brand. I have a lot of Schmincke watercolors, and they are wonderful. So, you know, I expected the gouache to be the same, and yeah, my expectations were reached. While painting with them, they went on really smoothly. They were opaque enough for me to do everything that I felt like I needed to do. And it was a very enjoyable process, I must say. And I feel like the color palette I picked out really worked well to my advantage. Here I'm not using that many colors. I'm painting a brain. I didn't feel like using the entire spectrum of colors, so the color palette is rather cohesive. But yeah, I have done some other paintings with it since making this video, and they will come out really well. I feel like I can work with it, and I'm very much interested in expanding my collection with the Schmincke colors. I've also been wanting to try the new Daniel Smith gouache, because I've heard rather good things about it, and also Daniel Smith is a brand I trust very much as well. I have a lot of their watercolors, and I have this custom palette that I've made with a mix of different brands, but the Daniel Smith is always very reliable. You can dry them down and they still function very well. There are some brands that I have issues with when it comes to drying them from tube form. Some colors I only keep in tube form. Schmincke dries down very well as well. However, their super granulating series, I would not recommend drying them in pans, as they require a lot more paint for the same effect. But anyway, here I am adding a shadow, which was a very bad decision. It does not work with the painting at all, because it's a brain just floating in nothing. It's not laying on anything, it doesn't have a background. Why would there be a shadow? There is no light source. A very ridiculous move, if I must say so myself. What I think would work well with this painting, and I'm actually planning to repaint it this way, I want to add like a hot pink background, because, you know, you see this like disgusting wet brain that's just laying there, and the background is this cutesy hot pink. And that's another thing I'm a very big fan of. I really like contrast in art. The contrast between cute things and disgusting things, pretty things and ugly things, the dark and the playful and the comedic. I'm quite a big fan of that. I really like dark comedy art or absurdist art. I'm a really big fan of that. And here, as you can see, I'm just going in and making those paths in the brain a lot clearer, because I was starting to lose a bit of the original shape. I have no idea what's going on in the sketch underneath, but that's fine, because a brain isn't exactly very precise in the way it is formed. And by that I mean, obviously it's a brain, it is a very complex and very interconnected piece of organ, But in terms of its artistic form, it is highly recognizable, as long as you get the overall shapes and feelings of it correct. And now I'm doing some outlines. What happened here is that I realized at some points that brain have a much longer shape and an elongated shape. Mine was far too round, so I decided to make a decision to elongate it by just adding some paths further towards the other edge of the paper. So I'm just going down with the same pink I used as a base earlier, and at this point the sketch doesn't really matter. I'm just gonna freehand it, get the feel of it, and follow the same type of shapes that I've been creating earlier. I wasn't focused on anatomical correctness. I was more focused on just getting the fact that it's a brain to be intelligible. So here I am going in with some shading, first some lighter red and then some darker where I figured there would be heavier shadows underneath the brain. That's one thing I'd really like to learn. I think it would be really cool if I knew the structure of the brain like at the back of my head. Like I know all the names, like the brainstem, the prefrontal cortex, the amygdala, the hippocampus, all of that. But I want to like be able to look at a slice of a brain and like see, oh, where is this and that? I'd like to point that out on a map. That would be really cool. And the thing is, it's not cool because I am particularly interested in biology. I am interested in biology, but like, to me, it is just cool to be able to do something. Like at school, we had like metal welding, and I didn't want to learn metal welding because I'm going to use a lot of metal welding. I wanted to learn it because it is cool to know metal welding. Like, imagine you're on a plane and someone is like, oh, we need help. And there's like, oh, I'm a doctor. Like, no, we don't need a doctor. We need a welder. I'm like, I know welding. It would probably be a very scary position to be in a plane if someone suddenly needed a welder. Like the plane is falling apart. You know, that kind of situation, I want to know welding so I can brag about it, essentially. Oh yeah, here I am going in with some stronger reds. I'm really trying to make the red and blue pop. I really love the red and blue color combination. I think it is... Oh no, what am I doing there? Why are you adding red to the background? I know you can't see it that well, but that's red. The background is already... The shadow of the background is already not supposed to be there. Why are you going in with red? I swear to God, once I'm done with this video, I'm gonna go outside and fucking fix that shit, because that's so annoying. Well, that's one of the reasons why it's good to take breaks from paintings, because you take some time off and you observe it some more, and suddenly new ideas come to you and other ways to formulate it, to improve it. So it's always good to, you know, clear your mind in that regard. That's one of the reasons I quite like having smoke breaks. I know smoking isn't healthy, but, you know, nothing else in my life is healthy, so why start now? But smoke breaks are really important for me because I just, okay, the paint has to dry, I go outside, I have a cigarette, and I just turn off my head, look at the view, whatever. And when I come back, I have such a different understanding of what I've done. I can see it in a lot more of an analytical way. You know, I have a tendency to get stuck into patterns. That's why it was so hard for me to learn more realistic drawings. And here we are. It seems like we are done. Brag about my view again, get a close-up, and yeah, it's a very nice and disgusting brain, and I am rather happy with the result, if I must say so for myself. Check out the Schmincke paints, I really recommend them, and have a good day.